Just look at this machine, a rolling fortress of steel and precision, a monument to German engineering ambition. Massive, commanding, and unapologetically overbuilt, the Mercedes-Benz W140 wasn't designed merely to compete, it was designed to dominate. Every line, every panel, every kilogram serves a purpose. This isn't just a luxury sedan, it's an engineering statement. A vehicle so substantial, so meticulously crafted, that it feels less like a car and more like a bank vault on wheels. The W140 stands as the ultimate expression of Mercedes-Benz's no-compromise philosophy. A colossal masterpiece from an era when engineers were given one simple instruction: build the best car in the world. And they did. In 1991, Mercedes-Benz did something that no other car company had ever done, or perhaps ever dared to do. They released a car so over-engineered, so lavishly conceived, so defiantly excessive, that it nearly bankrupted the company that built it. This is the W140. And this is its full story. Okay, to understand why the W140 exists, you have to understand what came before it. Mercedes-Benz had been building flagship S-Class sedans since the 1970s. The W116 defined the luxury segment. Then the W126 perfected it. By the mid-1980s, the W126 was considered by many automotive journalists to be the finest automobile on Earth, a benchmark of engineering discipline and restrained elegance. But inside Mercedes-Benz, something had shifted. The company was flush with cash, Germany's economy was booming, and there was a growing internal belief, some would later call it arrogance, that Mercedes had not yet built its masterpiece. Boardroom. In 1984, a small team of engineers and designers were quietly handed a brief that read, in essence, "Build the best car in the world." Cost is not the primary concern. Compromise is not an option. That project would take 7 years, consume billions of Deutsche Marks, and involve over 1,000 engineers at its peak. Its internal code name was W140. The design process for the W140 began in earnest around 1984 under the direction of Bruno Sacco, Mercedes-Benz legendary chief of design who had shaped the brand's visual identity for over 2 decades. Sacco's philosophy was one of timeless proportion. He despised gimmicks. He believed a great car should look correct from every angle, and should still look correct 20 years later. Early design proposals were radical by the standards of the time. Some sketches explored a far more aggressive, wedge-shaped silhouette, chasing the aerodynamic language that Audi and Ford were pioneering with the Taurus and the Audi 100. These proposals were rejected. What Sacco and his team settled on was an evolution, but an evolution executed with almost obsessive attention to detail. The W140's body was wider, longer, and more substantial than the W126. Its roofline was higher to provide genuine headroom in the rear. The greenhouse, the glassed area of the cabin, was enormous, giving the car an open, commanding presence. One of the most iconic design decisions was the flush, retractable door handles. At rest, the handles sit perfectly flat against the door surface, maintaining a seamless silhouette. Press the button, and they extend outward with a satisfying, mechanical precision. It was a detail that served no functional purpose beyond elegance, and it cost a fortune to engineer reliably. Classic Mercedes-Benz logic. The exterior dimensions were also deliberately generous. Some engineers internally referred to the car as the aircraft carrier. At 5.11 meters for the standard wheelbase and 5.21 meters for the long wheelbase variant, it was, and still is, one of the largest production sedans ever built. Borderline insane. Mercedes engineers did not approach this car asking, "What do we need?" They asked, "What is technically possible?" The list of first-ever features on the W140 reads like a science fiction checklist for the early 1990s. Double-pane side windows. For the first time on any production car, the W140 used double-glazed windows, the same concept used in buildings for insulation to reduce wind noise and improve thermal comfort. The result was a cabin so quiet that test drivers reported sensory disorientation. You could barely hear the engine at highway speeds. Electronically controlled automatic trunk lid. No reaching, no slamming. The trunk opened and closed via a button with hydraulic precision. Automatic child locks that engaged when the car was in motion. In 1991. Pre-tensioning seatbelts with force limiters, an early precursor to the systems we now take for granted in every modern vehicle. The first production use of fiber optic interior lighting, thin strands of optical fiber woven into the headliner and door panels to create ambient illumination without heat or bulk. And then there was the matter of the engines. The W140 launched with a range of powertrains that were, by any measure, extraordinary. The entry point was a 3.2-liter inline-six, producing around 230 horsepower in 1991. That alone would have been enough for most flagship sedans. Above that sat the 4.2-liter V8, and then the crown jewel, the 6.0-liter M120 V12. 60 degrees of displacement, 48 valves, 394 horsepower. Developed over several years specifically for this car, it was, at the time of launch, one of the most sophisticated production engines ever built. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.1 seconds, in a car that weighed over 2 metric tons in 1992. Let that sit for a moment. The chassis and suspension were equally advanced. The W140 used a multi-link rear suspension developed from Mercedes Motorsport research. The steering system was hydraulically assisted with variable ratios, heavier at speed, lighter at low speed. The air suspension, available on higher trims, could raise or lower the car automatically based on conditions. But here is where the story gets complicated and painful. The W140 was conceived during a boom. It was born into a recession. When Mercedes-Benz unveiled the W140 at the Frankfurt Motor Show in September 1991, the world had changed dramatically from when the project had begun. Germany was absorbing the enormous costs of reunification. The global economy had stalled, and the Gulf War had sent fuel prices soaring. The car that arrived, enormous, heavy, and thirsty, felt to many observers like a relic from a different era, one that hadn't happened yet. The press was not entirely kind. Words like bloated, overbuilt, and tone-deaf appeared in reviews. The W140 became a symbol, fairly or not, of corporate excess at a time when excess felt inappropriate. The German media in particular were brutal. The car was nicknamed Der Grosse, the Big One, sometimes affectionately, sometimes as an indictment. Then there was the price. The base W140 S300 launched in Germany at around 98,000 Deutsche Marks. The S600 V12 was over 180,000 DM. In US dollar equivalents, the V12 model retailed for over $130,000 at launch. These were figures that placed the W140 in direct competition with Rolls-Royce and Bentley, brands with century-old reputations for handcrafted luxury. And into that rarefied market, a new challenger had already arrived, quietly and devastatingly. The champagne glass on the running engine, the whispering dealer. The Lexus LS400. Toyota's flagship, launched in 1989 at roughly half the price of the Mercedes S-Class, had already begun reshaping expectations. It was whisper quiet. It was flawlessly assembled, and it didn't have the sticker shock. Mercedes' response internally was reportedly somewhere between dismissal and alarm. Publicly, they said the comparison was irrelevant, a different class of vehicle. Privately, the LS400 accelerated an internal quality control crisis that would take years to address. The W140 also suffered from reliability issues that were deeply embarrassing for a brand that had built its entire identity on engineering integrity. Early models reported problems with the complex electronic systems, the command precursor infotainment architecture, various control modules, and notably the air suspension on higher-spec models. Electrical gremlins plagued early U.S. market cars in particular. The complexity that was meant to be a selling point became, for some owners, a maintenance nightmare. The weight was another persistent criticism. The standard wheelbase W140 tipped the scales at over 1,900 kilograms. The long wheelbase V12 approached 2,200 kilograms. Fuel consumption was significant, and in some markets, this triggered luxury and emissions-based tax penalties. Mercedes also faced internal cost overruns that would later be cited as a contributing factor to the company's broader financial difficulties in the mid-1990s, difficulties that ultimately led to the controversial merger with Chrysler in 1998.
Despite everything, Mercedes-Benz built the W140 in a remarkable range of configurations, each one more extravagant than the last. Standard wheelbase, W140. S-Class sedan, S300, 3.2-liter inline-six, 177 horsepower, Europe only initially. S320, 3.2-liter inline-six, 228 horsepower, replaced the S300 in most markets. S350 turbo diesel, 3.5-liter inline-six diesel, 150 horsepower, one of the first diesel flagship sedans in the world, available in select markets. Understated but significant. S420, 4.2-liter V8, 279 horsepower, the sweet spot of the range for many buyers. S500, 5.0-liter V8, 320 horsepower, the definitive driver's choice. S600, 6.0-liter V12, 394 horsepower, the range topper, the automotive equivalent of a private jet. Long wheelbase, V140, plus 100 millimeters added to the rear passenger compartment. All of the above engines were available in the long wheelbase body, designated with an L suffix in some markets. S320L, S500L, S600L. These were the cars of choice for diplomats, heads of state, and corporate executives who needed to work from the back seat. There was also the C140 Coupe, arguably the most beautiful derivative of the W140 platform. The C140 sold as the 500 SEC and 600 SEC at launch, and later renamed the CL500 and CL600, was a full-size Grand Tourer coupe that shared the W140's floor pan, but featured a unique roofline, no B-pillar, and frameless door glass. When you rolled down all four windows in a C140 coupe, you were left with an almost surreal open-sided greenhouse, glass and chrome and air. It remains one of the most dramatic automotive silhouettes of the 1990s. The AMG variants. AMG, at the time still an independent tuner operating in close collaboration with Mercedes, offered the W140 in several high-performance specifications. The S60 AMG and S70 AMG took the already formidable V12 platform and pushed it further. The S70 AMG displacing 7.0 liters and producing in excess of 500 horsepower. These were not catalog cars, they were commissioned weapons. Armored and state variants. The W140 was also the basis for numerous armored limousine configurations, built by Mercedes-Benz Special Protection Division and by aftermarket coach builders including Brabus, Lorenzer, and several state-contracted manufacturers. Many heads of state, including members of the Saudi royal family, several African presidents, and various European dignitaries, were transported in W140-based vehicles.
The W140 was produced at Mercedes-Benz's Sindelfingen plant in Baden-Württemberg, the same facility that had built virtually every S-Class flagship before it. Production ran from 1991 to 1998, 7 model years. In that time, Mercedes built approximately 406,532 units of the W140 sedan across all variants and markets. The C140 Coupé added a further 26,024 units, bringing the combined W140 platform total to just over 432,000 vehicles. By the standards of a flagship luxury vehicle, these are not small numbers. Rolls-Royce, for comparison, produces a few thousand cars per year across its entire lineup. But measured against Mercedes' internal projections and against the colossal investment the company had made, the numbers were considered disappointing. The United States was the largest single export market, followed by Japan and the Gulf states. The V12 S600 and S600L were disproportionately popular in Japan and the Middle East, where the car's sheer scale was seen not as excess, but as appropriate status. In Germany, ironically, the reception remained ambivalent throughout the model's life. The car that German engineers built to conquer the world was received with more enthusiasm in Tokyo and Riyadh than in Stuttgart. In 1994, Mercedes addressed several of the early criticisms with a significant mid-cycle update. The most visible change was the revised front fascia, a new grille design and updated headlights that gave the car a more modern, sharper expression. The interior received revised wood trim options and updated electronics. More significantly, Mercedes addressed many of the reliability concerns that had plagued early models. The electrical systems were simplified and updated. Revised suspension calibrations improved ride quality, and new engine management software improved fuel economy marginally. The S320 replaced the S300 as the entry point in most markets. The S500 received revised power figures, and the entire range was standardized around Mercedes' new model year nomenclature, transitioning from the old 500 SE/600 SEL naming to the cleaner S500/S600 format that the brand still uses today. Revised nomenclature. The post-facelift W140 is generally considered the definitive version. The rough edges smoothed, the systems settled, the car finally operating as its creators had intended. By 1996 and 1997, as the W140's replacement, the W220, began its development cycle, production started to wind down. The last W140 rolled off the Sindelfingen line in October 1998, replaced immediately by the W220, a car that was notably smaller, lighter, and more restrained. A deliberate overcorrection, some said. The W140's cultural footprint is impossible to ignore. In the 1990s, it became the default vehicle of power in popular culture. Presidents arrived in them. Drug lords were arrested near them. They appeared in every major Hollywood thriller that needed to signal wealth and threat simultaneously. Jay-Z referenced them. Snoop Dogg filmed videos in them. Today, the W140 occupies a fascinating space in the collector car world. Values bottomed out in the mid-2000s, when fuel costs and repair complexity made running one genuinely punishing. A low-mileage S600 that cost $130,000 new could be purchased for under $5,000 in 2008. But the tide has turned. The best-preserved W140s, particularly the S600 V12 and the C140 Coupé, have been steadily appreciating. Concours-conditioned examples now regularly clear $30,000 to $60,000, with exceptional S600Ls reaching 6 figures at major auctions. The W140 is, increasingly, recognized for what it actually was. Not a monument to excess, but a monument to craft. A car that refused to ask whether something was necessary, only whether it was possible. There is something almost poignant about the W140's story. It was built by people who believed, with complete sincerity, that they were making the best car in the world. And they may well have been right. The market, the moment, simply wasn't ready for them. The W140 S-Class was never a perfect car. It was heavy where it should have been light, complex where simplicity would have served, enormous at a moment when the world wanted restraint. But perfection was never really the point. The point was ambition. The belief that engineering had no ceiling. That if you gathered enough brilliant people and gave them enough resources and told them that compromise was forbidden, you could build something that would outlast every criticism ever leveled at it. 30 years later, the W140 is still doing exactly that.